Hey guys, how are you? It is Monday, it is noon, it is number 19, and this is day 44. That's insane. Day 44. So good to see you. Hope you had a wonderful day yesterday. I was blessed by the services yesterday. I hope you were as well. And I enjoyed getting to talk to several of you yesterday also. Let me go through some information that is probably going to be important to you. Number one, we're looking for information to come out from our governor this week and for information from our county and our city here in Weston as well this week. So be listening. We've got plans all in place and contingencies and conditions all in place for what campus reopening could look like. Don't think it'll be this Sunday, but we're keeping our ears open and we'll communicate as well as we can. Secondly, this Sunday is our annual women's conference. Every year we have a huge women's conference. It's a big part of our ministry here. And this year we thought about not doing it. We had Martha Peace as our speaker, but by God's grace, she was willing to do it for us live. So this Saturday, we'll have a one-of-a-kind online live women's conference from up near Atlanta, Georgia area, actually up near where Craig's area is, and he's on the chat here today. And Martha Peace will be teaching for us, and it starts, I believe, around 9 a.m. You can go onto our website, go to fbcweston.org/conference. The information will be there, and the link will go live on Saturday, I believe actually Friday. You can find on social media all the information you can imagine. But Martha Peace is an incredibly important author to the church. She wrote this book, The Excellent Wife. If you're not familiar with this book, you need to get familiar with this book. It's fantastic. Our friend, Dr. Stuart Scott from Masters Seminary and Masters University, he wrote together with her this book, The Faithful Parent, also a very good book. But Dr. Scott wrote the companion to The Excellent Wife, and it's called The Exemplary Husband, and also a tremendous book. So she's a wonderful teacher. It's going to be fantastic, and it'll be well worth your time. So look for the information to share. It's going to be going out. Let's open our Bibles. Psalm 37. I'm excited this morning. Psalm 37, verse number 3 is where we're going to be to start this morning. Psalm 37, verse number 3. This is an interesting psalm to use in these days. We've talked a lot about that kind of stuff, thriving in exile, worry, God our stronghold. We've talked a lot about that for several weeks, but I want to go to a text that could be helpful as a paradigm more long-term, not just during this COVID outbreak, for how you and I are supposed to think and combat sort of wrong and sinful and fearful and anxious thoughts in the midst of difficult times. I want to give you a simple paradigm that you can employ to help you. Start at verse number 3. David writes, "Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and feed on his faithfulness. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart." Now that last verse, or that last part of verse 3, feed on his faithfulness. I don't know what translation you have. I use the New King James Version. We use that here at the church. A lot of the modern translation or modern versions, they have a little bit different wording there, and then they have a note. And that note would take you to this wording here. I think this is the best wording, and I want to talk about this idea of trusting the Lord, doing good, and feeding on his faithfulness. What would that look like to feed on the faithfulness of God? What would it look like to do that in times where you need to trust in the Lord? Well, here are 3 attributes of God, 3 attributes of God that are very important, but 3 attributes of God to bring to mind, to recall really, really quickly in a difficult time, to keep in your mind and heart in the context of sort of this fearful downward spiral we all go through of wondering what's going to happen. Is it going to turn out terrible? Is God still listening? Does God care for me? You can think of these 3 attributes, and you can kind of picture them in a triangle, right? And I write a triangle in my Bible, and at the top is sovereignty. You can consider the attribute of sovereignty. God is sovereign. He is in complete control. Psalm 115:3, our God is in the heavens. He does all that he pleases. Isaiah 46, also a wonderful text. Isaiah 46, verses 9 through 10. "Remember the former things of old, for I am God, there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning." I could continue on there, but the point is made sufficiently throughout the scriptures. You can go to several places, but God is sovereign. He is in control. That's the first thing I've got to dwell on. All right. Feel like everything's out of control, but I've got to remember, according to the Bible, God is in control. Attribute number 2, the goodness of God. So the sovereignty of God is in control. The goodness of God, things like love and mercy and forgiveness and grace, those are all still in action, even when things are going bad for me. My marriage is failing, my family is broken, my finances are flooded. I don't know what I'm going to do for my future. I don't know what decision to make. Whatever it is, God's sovereignty is still there, and God's goodness is still there as well. This Sunday in our text from the scriptures, we talked about how God is full of compassion and mercy. Reminds me of Psalm 103:8. Psalm 103, verse number 8. It says this: "The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in mercy." And that's true no matter what I face. So number 1 thing to dwell on, sovereignty of God. He's always in control. Number 2, the goodness of God. All of those are still intact. And number 3, the wisdom of God. Number 1, the sovereignty of God. He's in control. Number 2, the goodness of God. His faith, his love, his mercy, all that is there. And number 3, the wisdom of God. And here's the way to look at it. You and I cannot improve upon God's plan for our life. Think about that. It is impossible for you and I to come up with a better plan for our life. And isn't that what we try to do all the time? We are so easily convinced we have a better plan, and it is impossible for God's plan not to be the best plan for our lives. You can look up Romans 11:33 later, and it talks about the wisdom of God. So I keep those in my Bible, really around Proverbs 3:5-6, sort of in the idea of a triangle. And it sort of looks like this. I'll show it to you in my Bible, and maybe that'll be helpful for you. It looks like that. 3 attributes of God to focus on, and you can pause the video later and look at that. All right, let me talk about 2 other things. Second thing is graduations for high school. I've got a senior about to graduate. I can't believe that. My son is about to graduate and start college. But just think about this for our high school seniors. They have no graduation. Broward County here is doing it online. I just think back to the days when I graduated. So right now, I want to love on our kids and encourage them and tell them how much we're proud of them and just really come alongside them. They're missing this milestone. But pray that in the same way, God has a plan, and his plan is better than our plan. But it reminded me of my days. Here's what I remember from my high school graduation. I wore cowboy boots. I lived in Northern California, north of San Francisco. I wore cowboy boots. That's all I remember really from it. It was a long time ago, but I'm sure you remember that day and probably do so very well. Number 3, let me talk about cars that have been sitting for a while. If your car has been sitting for a while throughout all this, here's some things to think of. Number 1, make sure your fluids are all right. Number 2, make sure you've got your tires aired up in your car. Number 3, make sure and run it every couple of days to ensure you're kind of keeping things going. But number 4, someone asked me a question about what happens when I've got a lot of leaf debris and a lot of stains, maybe sap from trees setting in on my paint after sitting so long. Well, you want to go get yourself a good car wash with a wax in it and get yourself a good nylon brush that's a non-scratching brush. And you want to use something. We don't see it a lot in our day, but here it is. Here's a technical term: elbow grease. Hard work. You're going to have to scrub it hard. If you can't get those things out, here's what you can do. There's something called a clay bar. You can buy it online. You can buy it in any auto parts store, a clay bar, and it's got full instructions there. But you can use that to work out those really hard wax or sap stains or leaf stains that you can't scrub out otherwise. It'll work well. Won't take off the clear coat, but you do want to apply wax on over it. So anyways, hope that's helpful for you there. So we talked about Psalm 37, talked about graduations. I bet you can remember yours. And we talked about our cars and keeping them ready to go for when we're back on the roads. But listen, I love you. I'm praying for you. Looking forward to a wonderful week. Pray for me as I'm working on the message even right now. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.